Hello lovelies, welcome back to my channel Cactus, the channel where I wrap up lifestyle content for you in a series. If you are new here, the name's Becky Kwanga. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to all the new subscribers. Karibu, 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 welcome. Thank you. And to all of you who have been supporting your girl from day one, asante sana. Thank you. We are in the middle of a series about taking our power back. In the last two previous weeks, we spoke about how to change our mindset in order to manifest the things that we desire and deserve. We're going to shift gears a little bit this week to talk about mental health and mental wellness. And before you shrug and say, this episode is not for me, we're not talking about, clinical stuff here or mental institute stuff where someone has gone too far. No, we're talking about the everyday mental wellness and health for the everyday person in everyday situations. All right, so that's you and that's me. Many of us are not okay, and it's time to talk about it. We focus so much energy on the physical, yet we forget that our mental state and physical being are connected. All of us are vulnerable to losing our mental wellness. Children are depressed, adults are depressed, teenagers are depressed. And that's just one of the signs. And we often dismiss the symptoms either because we don't know what they are, we don't know what to look out for, or stigma. No one wants to talk about it, and this forces us to ignore the red flags. And that's how people go nuts. The results of this are already being seen in our society. Suicide left, right, and center. Family breakdowns is another example. Violence, drug and alcohol abuse. The list just goes on. It's time to talk about it openly, and it's time to break the stigma so that we can be whole and healthy. Are you taking care of your mental health? Are you taking care of your mental wellness? I have someone amazing joining me in this week's episode. You've met her before in the guest Airbnb series that I did last year. If you haven't watched that series, I'll place the link up for you above and in the description box below. So, everybody give a warm welcome to Miss Shibero Akatsa. Woo! Thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Thank you so much for coming.
Oh.
I know I grabbed you from a very busy schedule.
No, I'm okay. I'm looking forward to it actually.
Yes. So, we've been talking about this since last week. Mm-hmm. We were on the phone, yeah?
Yes, we were.
Talking about what exactly should we concentrate on exactly, but many people are not okay.
Yeah.
People are not okay.
Yes, many people aren't okay.
Yes.
They aren't coping.
Yes.
With just the everyday realities of life.
Yes.
Yes.
And there's such a stigma around mental wellness, mental health. Mm-hmm. Also a lot of I don't know if the word is misconceptions or misunderstanding. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but people really do not know what it is to be.
They don't.
Yeah. So why is it important for us to talk about mental wellness, mental health? Why is it important for us to discuss this?
Thanks, Becky. I think it's really crucial that we understand what mental health is about, because mental health or mental wellness is something that we experience all the time.
Yes.
In terms of our minds, the situations that we get involved in, all those are to do with mental health in terms of the experiences, the situations that cause us stress, that upset us, that are traumatic, that are all those things. What happens is that they end up going into our minds.
Yeah.
And when they go into our minds, they become scars.
Right.
And when they become scars, they disable us. And this is what becomes our baggage.
Yeah.
And even though we may think that the traumas that we experience every day, or the accumulated stresses that we accumulate every day do not affect us, they are actually the culprits of ill mental health.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that is why we need
Yes.
to know
Yeah.
more about mental health or
Yes.
mental wellness.
Right.
But at the same time, it's important to know that if the body can get sick,
Yes.
so can the mind.
Exactly.
When I fall down and break my leg, the immediate reaction is most of the time we'll be rushed into hospital.
Right.
But when I've had an extremely traumatic situation happen
Right.
to me, and there are plenty of those happening,
Yes.
what will happen is instead of being rushed to the hospital, I will store that in my mind, and then that becomes a scar, and it accumulates. You
My
see,
goodness.
and when it accumulates, it does affect
Yes.
my mental
Yes.
being,
Yes.
my mental being.
Yes.
And those are the things that come back to really affect us in the way we are going to manage our lives.
Right.
Because we need to understand that we need life skills
Right.
to manage those unseen
Right.
situations that cause us mental disabilities.
So our mental health is actually even, can I say,
Go
maybe
on.
even more important than
Yeah.
physical,
Yes.
because it affects every part of our being. It even ends
Absolutely.
up affecting our body.
Absolutely.
When we're crushed
Yes.
inside,
Yes.
the stress also affects us in the body.
Absolutely. I don't know if you've heard of the term psychosomatic. Psychosomatic basically is if I have been, say, abused at school or bullied. Let's take that. I've been bullied at school. After a while, I develop a cough.
Right.
And in developing a cough, I won't go to school because I'm being bullied. Those are some of the things we call psychosomatic that come out of emotional situations that have happened to us
Wow.
that we can't deal with.
Right.
We call that psychosomatic. And sometimes you'll even find that things like asthma can be psychosomatic illnesses because of emotional situations that are happening to us.
Right.
And depression, which we'll be talking about, is just one of those where it does
about
become
today.
psychosomatic, where
Goodness.
your body has to express
Right.
what's going on here. The emotional scars, it has to express it somehow. Wow. So it is crucial to understand that the mind, what goes on in the mind and the emotions is just as crucial, if
Right.
not more so,
Right.
than our physical health.
Right.
Because we cannot see.
Right.
We can't see the
Yes.
emotional scars, which
Right.
is what makes it dangerous.
Yes. Yes.
And I believe that is why many of us actually have the taboos and the myths. We have to make up something as to why so and so is running around on the streets without any clothes on.
Right.
We cannot see the journey they've been down on, the
Right.
emotional scars
Yes,
piling up
the
on top
build-up,
of
the
exactly
build-up
the
to
build
get
up.
there.
So you have to know about how our mental scars affect
Right.
our physiology,
Yes.
physical body,
Yes.
and how we deal with life. It's very crucial.
And there's something you said is that the symptoms tend to creep up on us,
Yeah,
without even realizing, as you were saying, it's silent. We don't see it.
absolutely.
It creeps up on us.
Absolutely.
And that's why I guess it's also important to talk about these things so that we can be aware of the symptoms, we can be aware of signs to look out for.
Absolutely.
So that we're not just...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you understand your symptoms, if you understand your emotional language as well, it is going to help you prevent, so that it's not suddenly I am depressed.
Right.
Yeah. It is a life skill that we need to develop, especially as Africans.
A life skill.
It is a life skill.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm saying again, especially as Africans, because many Africans do not talk about
Exactly.
emotions.
Right. Yes.
And we shut our
Yes.
children down
Yes.
many times when they start crying,
Yeah.
or when start explaining to us what's going on. We don't talk emotion.
Yeah.
So it's very crucial that we actually learn that emotions and the mind
Right.
affect the way in which we deal with life situations when
Right.
things become extremely traumatic.
Yeah.
So that's why we need to understand that it is very important, in fact, more so. But then also, our mind is where we store everything.
Right. Yes.
You know, if the mind is not well, the rest of the body
We're
is not
not
going to be
okay.
well.
And I mean, I think this leads us to the stigma around this subject,
Yes,
especially in
yes.
African communities.
Yes. Yeah. The stigma is terrible. And the thing about about stigmatizing mental wellness or mental illnesses is it stops those people who are ill
Yeah.
or who need help from
Right.
actually coming out
Yes.
and seeking help.
Right.
So we actually push them away and they get from bad to worse.
Right.
And then you find that there are people who are beginning to commit suicides,
Yeah.
people who have completely withdrawn and resigned from life, people who've decided they can't deal with life anymore because they're afraid of actually saying, you know what, I'm not coping.
Right.
I'm just
not
not
okay.
Yeah, I'm not okay.
Right.
And we don't know how to deal with that.
We don't. We don't. So
No, we
there
don't.
needs to be awareness how to deal.
Absolutely.
How to say, okay, we should create an atmosphere, or it should be okay for us as a society to say, hey, I'm not okay.
Yes.
And then there's the other side to say, okay, you're not okay.
Yes.
I know what to do. I have an
Yes.
idea of what we can do.
Yes.
So there's
Yes.
there's things for both people, like people in both situations to learn.
Absolutely.
Someone who is not okay and the other person who is receiving the news. I guess.
Absolutely. And also for those who are caring for people who are affected by whether it's depression or other mental illnesses or disorders, to also understand how to care for people like
How
that.
to care, yes.
Because it's very easy for people to say, hey, pull out of it. What's your problem?
Right,
Isn't it?
yeah,
And
yeah.
we don't realize just how crippling the mind can be to our health, overall health.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The mind is actually very, very powerful because if you think a certain way, you will start becoming.
Like we spoke about last week.
Really?
In fact, if you have not watched last week's video, okay, there's two of them. Head over. I'm gonna put the links above and beneath.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So mental health, mental wellness, we hear these words being thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
But what exactly is mental health, mental wellness?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mental health is actually the state of our minds and the health of our minds. Let's just put it that way. It is, it's the state of my mind. Is it healthy or not healthy? Then you have the mental illnesses, which is now full blown when the mind has fallen sick. And this can be illnesses like schizophrenia, it can be illnesses like manic depression, it can be mental illnesses like bipolar, etc., etc., etc. The list is quite long. And then we have, and those need to be treated with medication and with a psychiatrist.
Right. Yes.
A professional.
Right.
Then we've got the mental health disorders, which do not necessarily require medication, even though people are put on things like antidepressants.
Yeah.
I prefer not to work with people
Right.
who are using antidepressants so that we can access you.
Yes.
You know, the antidepressants do depress.
Yes. Yes.
Anyway, so on you have mental disorders, so that would be like anxiety, that would be things like depression.
And anxiety is a big one.
It's a very big one, and people don't realize. Yes. That it's actually a disorder, a mental disorder.
Yes, anxiety is huge.
It's huge because it's worry, and you're playing the same playing the same tape.
Panic and
Exactly.
tight chest, and then
Panic
waking up in
attacks.
the morning, panic attacks,
Exactly.
waking up all in in all weird times of the night. I mean, I've gone
Not
through
sleeping.
that. I've
Yeah.
gone through that, insomnia, all of these
Oh
things.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Yes.
So those are more the disorders.
Yes.
And those can actually be treated by talk therapy. And then obviously you've got the depression, the situational depression, which we had talked about. And with situational depression, it's the depression that comes out of situations.
Yes.
It's self-explanatory.
Right.
Then we have the depression that is, how can I put it? That is inherited. And a lot of that, let me just rewind. The depression, situational depression, if not looked after, if you do not deal with it, can quickly move on to clinical
And now
depression.
clinical is where it's
Clinical now is where you're suicidal. You're right down the line, because by now the physiology is changing in the brain. Yeah.
So we have to try and nip that in the bud before getting to that level.
Absolutely.
We've got to take care of it at this stage
before. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why if you can prevent it from getting to that place, then you will be able to, you have learned how to, you have the life skills to cope with life.
With life.
Because if that is situational, it means that this situation that's pulling you down, you don't know how to deal with it. That's why we need the life skills. That's why we need the emotional intelligence.
Yes.
But once you learn that, then you have a way of preventing it from becoming that point of, I really cannot. I just cannot.
Handle this
Everything
anymore.
is dark.
Right.
Everything is, I'm helpless. I'm powerless. I can't do anything about it. And that's when you just slide right down, and you get antidepressants and, that kind of. So those are the differences between mental health, mental health and mental health disorders and mental illnesses that we need to understand.
Right.
Because we can be sitting here like this, chatting away, and yet I am actually depressed.
Yes. Yes.
We're
very good at putting masks on.
Exactly.
And because we also don't know how to read the other person, or sometimes you can't read the other person.
Yeah. And then the way my depression would express itself, for example, we're sitting here chatting. When I'm on my own, I go into this very negative place where I am just bringing myself down, where it's just a dark hole. Everything is dark. I want to sleep all the time. I isolate myself, and nobody ever really knows what's going on.
Right.
So we need to understand the differences,
Yes.
what we can do about it. It's very important to know that you can do something about it, so that it's not just creeping up on you and suddenly it's like, I'm depressed.
Right.
So we need to be so aware of what emotional situations get to us and how we deal with them. We can talk about how do we take care of our mental health.
Okay.
Because we need to be aware of our emotions. Like we were saying, we don't talk emotions. And if we keep telling that child, don't cry, every time you whack it, or every time they're bullied at school, or every time maybe they're even being abused, and you keep telling them, don't cry, or I don't want to hear it, you're exaggerating. When you don't believe them and you keep pushing them down, what happens is all the feelings, all the emotions are getting suppressed. Depression. And there's no other way that depression can actually come out. So it's so important to know the situations that are bringing by these feelings. You know when something is not right. You know when you're anxious. You know when you're hurting. You know when something unfair has been done to you. You know when you're being, especially as adults. As children, you're powerless. But here we're talking more with adults. You know when the situation you're in is either abusing you or it's not the right situation. You shouldn't be in that situation. but you become totally powerless.
Yeah.
It is good to be aware of the emotions that come out of it to start off with. This is what we call emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And what we simply have to do is also be able to put ourselves in the situation of that other. If I was being abused and if I was being abused and somebody came to talk to me,
Right.
I should be able to pick that up and pick the emotions that that person might be experiencing. Emotional intelligence. So you can read it in other people, but you have to know it first
Yes.
yourself.
Wow. Wow.
And once you know it, then you know how to be able to deal with that emotion, what that emotion calls for you to do. Like if, for example, anger, not many of us know how to express anger. Why? Because we've never been allowed to be angry.
Right. That's so true. That is just so true. Exactly.
So we're afraid to
It's
be angry.
suppressed.
Yes, it's suppressed.
Yeah.
We're afraid to be angry. And I've been with clients who have told me in the past, I was afraid of showing my anger. I don't know if you've ever been in that place where if I let myself get angry, I am just gonna throw things all over the place because it's anger that's been suppressed. It's coming. It's now coming out. It's like opening a can of worms.
And I guess that's how there's so much violence, physical violence in marriages and in relationships.
Yep.
Because
Yeah, absolutely right. The anger of, we call it archaic anger. It has come from way back then and it's coming out on you. You're the person who's right there, so it's going to come out. So what are the situations that make me angry? Why do they make me angry? Where is that anger coming from? And how do I deal with my anger in a constructive way? Because anger can be good.
yes.
It can propel you to do. It can be.
It can be,
It
yes.
can be used constructively.
Yes.
Jesus got angry.
Of course, he
yeah?
did.
Yeah,
Yes.
he did.
Whipped a few people.
He whipped a few people and turned a few tables over.
Yeah.
And that is because
Yeah.
it propels you to
Yes.
take action.
Right.
But it's got to be a productive action. It's justified anger. For example, if you know, I know I keep coming back to abuse, but that's
Yes.
something that's happening so much.
It's important. It's
It
important
is,
to
isn't
talk
it?
about this. Yes.
Yeah. So if you know that there's a child who's being molested, you have a right to get angry,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
If you know that there's some man or some woman who's being abused by their spouse,
Yeah.
you have a right to sort of like,
Yes.
why?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So anger is not all bad. It
Yeah.
is the way in which you deal with it and the way in which you react to it when
Right.
you are in that
that
situation. So understanding anger will help me with the emotional intelligence. It'll help me understand how to deal with the anger that I have that would otherwise be explosive and volatile. It'll help me deal with situations in a better way. But I have to know I am angry.
Right. But I feel like some of the emotional intelligence would need the help of someone, because doing it by ourselves is right.
It's very true. So in addition to emotional intelligence, there is also the knowing that I am angry. In terms of I'm not denying that this situation has been going on and I need to deal with it because
putting
absolutely,
because that's a big one. Self-denial.
You have absolutely.
So we have to admit,
yes,
I am angry, I'm confused, I'm
yes,
sad,
yes, you
have to admit it. Yes.
Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere. You're going to keep on doing the same thing.
Yes.
So that is the very first step. You've got to admit I'm in this situation and it's causing me these feelings and I am hurt. I am, etc., etc., etc. And then it is about needing to talk to somebody. You got to talk to somebody so that it is out of here. And once you speak to somebody, it reduces the pain, the scar, and that is where counselors come in, psychotherapists come in, but your friends come in, sometimes family. But you have to be very careful who you're talking to. Don't just talk to anybody, because those things are very, very personal, and it's wise to choose who you talk to.
Absolutely.
Because you could end up being damaged even more, or traumatized even more. Because people like a good story, by the way. And this sounds terrible.
But it's the truth.
But it's the truth. Did you hear what so and so?
Exactly.
And I'm sorry, but women, many of us I've seen it, where we are afraid to actually talk about our situations to others, because we've been hurt in the past. We have heard it's gone like this, like this, like this, like this. And then by the time you get to hear it, it's like, I told you that in confidence. So that's why it's very, very crucial to be extremely wise on whom you talk to. Otherwise, you're just going to get even more traumatized. So those are pretty much, you've got to accept that thing has happened to me, and this is what it has caused within me. And then we need to talk to somebody. You've got to talk to somebody. You have to.
All right, we're gonna stop the video here. Wow, I have learned so much. What about you guys? What have you learned? Can you let me know in the comment section? It really breaks my heart to know that there are so many of us that are just not okay. And we need to talk about it. We need to talk about it openly. So, you guys, let me know. What did you learn today? Is there something that you're going to change? Is there something that you're going to, apply and, try to do better? If you're going through a really tough time right now, has any of this stuff helped you? I would love to know. I think it is difficult, but we have to work hard to make sure that we're okay, and we focus so much on the body and we forget about our mental health and wellness. So, next week we will be continuing on with this conversation. Share this video. Please share this video on your social media, because I really feel that the more people know about this, the better it is, for everybody. So, if you need someone to talk to, okay, Shibero is available. She actually does hold therapy sessions. So I'm going to put her contacts in the description box below. Please reach out. Don't do this alone. Talk to somebody, reach out. I'm looking for a dude. that we can actually do a show where we can speak to the guys, because sometimes the men don't want to listen to the ladies. So if you're a professional in this field, you don't have to be licensed, but if this is your area of topic, contact me. My email is in the description box below. Please, this is not a session for, hi, how are you? Here I am. This needs to be like your field. So I'm gonna check you out first of all, even before I say we can have this conversation. Okay? Did you like this video? Okay? Let YouTube know that you are enjoying this video. If you have not subscribed, subscribe. And for every new subscriber out there, Asanteni Sana, may you be blessed. All right, guys, we'll see you next week.